Sheviis, and we have Zion Vav.
Yeah.
The right? The
Yeah.
rose, the cypress, ketov, and lotus, the seventh year applies to chem and to their proceeds. Reb Shimon says the seventh year does not apply to ketov since it is not a fruit. If a new rose has been preserved in an old oil, the rose may be taken. If the old and new, it is subject to biur. If new carobs have been preserved in old wine, or old and new, they are subject to beer. This is the general rule. This is the general principle. If it imparts flavor, and there are two kinds, it is subject to beer. But when of the same kind, whatever the quantity, the seventh year renders forbidden whatever the quantity of the same kind. But if of different kinds, it imparts flavor. Okay, and um, they lay down. Just give me 1 second, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. My wife just brought me my coffee. So that's.
Mhm. Thanks.
They laid down an important principle regarding the seventh year. Whatever is designated as food for humans may not be used to make poultice for humans, or needless to say, for cattle. But whatever is not designated as food for humans may be used to make poultice for humans, but not for cattle. And whatever is not designated as food for either humans or cattle, if one intended it as food for both humans and cattle, is subject to the stringency which applies to humans and to the stringency which applies to cattle. If he intended it for use as wood, then it is as wood, as for instance savory, hyssop, or thyme. Okay.
Okay. All right. Mishnah base.
Yeah.
Sheviis nitna la'achila. Sheviis produce is permitted for achila, for eating, for shtia, and for drinking, or for lesicha, and for anointing. Remember, we said that yesterday. I didn't actually see this Mishnah before. I told you that yesterday, but I did remember that you could take olive oil and put it on your skin. So we'll see that explicitly now. Le'echol davar shedaka le'echol, to eat something that is normally eaten. V'lasuch davar shedaka lasuch, and to anoint something that is normally anointed. Okay, lo yasuch yain v'chometz. You are not allowed to take wine or vinegar of shmita grapes and rub them into your skin. That's considered a waste. Okay, about sachu is a shemen, but you can take olive oil, even though olive oil is also edible. But olive oil is commonly used for as a skin tonic, so um, it's it is permitted to use olive oil on your skin. But truma over maaseh sheni, and the same thing applies with produce of truma and produce of maaseh sheni. The same general principle that you can eat things that are meant to be eaten, but if a kohen gets truma oil, he's allowed to put it on his skin. But if he gets truma wine, he's not allowed to put that on his skin. And the same goes for maaseh sheni. Okay, kal mehem shvius. The shvius is more makil than truma and maaseh sheni. Why? Shenitna lahadlakas aner, because because Shemitah produce is also allowed to be burned as a candle, and it's not considered hashkasa. Now we said that shemen streifa, if you have truma oil that became tame, the kohen is allowed to burn it for his benefit, um, but that's only because it's tame. If he has tahor shemen zayis, then he must consume it, or he can put it on his skin, but he's not allowed to burn it. All right, so that's the big difference between Shemitah produce and Maaseh Sheni and Truma. Okay, Gimel. Ein mochrin peiros shvius lo b'mida, lo b'mishka, lo b'minyan. So if a person, under the certain circumstances when a person is allowed to sell to sell Shemitah produce, it can't be done in a way that resembles commerce. It's got to be, I picked too many apples today. You want to buy my excess off me, and it's not because, and you don't say, oh well, it's 5 apples at 1 shekel an apple. You just say, here's a box of apples.
Right.
And okay, so it can't be b'mida. It can't be, so b'mida is with a volume. Lo b'mishkal, not with weight. Lo b'minyan, and not by number. Lo ta'enim b'minyan, and figs in a minyan. So even if it's one of ihu mishane miderech mechira, right? So that's a different thing. So why figs? Right? Figs are normally sold by weight.
Uh-huh.
Okay, And now he says, okay, well, I'll sell you figs by number instead. And no, that doesn't work either. It's a general v'lo yarek v'mishkal, and normally vegetables are sold by the bundle. Right? So you say one bundle for a shekel or whatever, and say, okay, so we'll sell them by weight. No, can't do that either. It's got to be kind of as an estimate. It just looks like this. I'll pay you 5 shekels for this whole batch over here, however much it is. Beis Shammai omrim af lo agudos. Even not selling the he can't sell them by bundles. He has to sell them unbundled, according to Beis Shammai. See, because he says that selling them by bundles resembles too much the derech of commerce. Ubeis Hillel omrim es shedarko le'egod b'bayis ognin oso b'shuk k'gon hakreshin v'neitzach halav. But Beis Hillel say, look, if it's something that you would normally patch together in a bundle in your own home, then it's okay to sell it as that bundle in the shuk, because it doesn't look like a derech commerce. It still looks like a householder did this, and it doesn't look like commerce. And he says, what species are is that applicable to kreshin and neis chalav? We specified those species in Zion Aleph. The kreshin are vetches, is that right?
Vetches.
And neis chalav, milk something, milkweed. What is it?
In here, I have to go back to Aleph. Zion Aleph, we said, right?
Yeah. What's the translation of neis chalav?
Zion Aleph. Sorry, I can't find it.
Don't worry about it. Just tell me the translation from our Mishnah here.
So your Mishnah here?
Yeah. What's the translation at the end here?
Okay. I just messed this up. I'm sorry. At the end, milkweed, leeks and milkweed.
So it's milkweed. Interesting. Interesting that milkweed is considered a desirable product for food. I guess it's edible. Okay. Mishnah Dalet. Omer Lapoil. So a guy has a worker, and you're allowed to pay people to do work for you during Shemitah. And he says to him, "Hey lach isar zeh, here, take this coin, v'laket li yarak hayom, and go and get me some vegetables, please." Which means he's paying his worker to go out in the field and pick him a vegetable. Okay, schar mutar. So that means his schar is chulin. It's he's just being paid to go out and do work, and he's fetching the guy a vegetable, which is a shemitah vegetable. Okay. However, if he says laketli bo yarak hayom, if he says go and get me a vegetable with this today. Now, because he's changed the wording, it sounds more like he is doing a trade for the vegetable, scharo asor, which means that the money that he gets for it is now effectively from selling shemitah produce, and that money now has kedusha Sheviis. So when it says scharo asor, it doesn't mean that he's not allowed to have it. It means that it has the kedusha of Sheviis. So that's a little inconvenient for him. So when the guy asks him to do the work for him, he should say, "I'm paying you for your work, not for the produce." Okay. Lakach mina nachtum kikar pundion. Now, let's say a guy goes to a baker, and he buys a loaf of bread for a pundion, and he feels in his pocket and says, "Oops, I don't have any cash on me at the moment." And he says, "Listen, how about when I go out this afternoon to pick some vegetables, I'll bring you a bundle, and we'll consider that fair trade." Okay, mutar. That's permitted. Why is that? It's permitted to do this because it's not a tashdum. Rather, what he's doing is he's giving him a gift. And from the Rambam over here says that it appears that the reason is because he says to him that he'll give him vegetables. This is like he's swapping the vegetables for the bread.
Right.
Okay, he's doing a barter, and that's permitted to do a barter for the vegetables for the bread, and he's not doing this on account. Okay, so therefore he's allowed to do this, but yeah, it seems to me, yeah, and he says it explicitly that the bread is going because the bread is being bartered for Shemitah produce, the bread is going to get Kedusha Sheviis as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now if he does it the other way, however, and says lakach mimenu stam, if he takes the bread stam and the shopkeeper says, I'll put this on your account. Lo yishalem lo midmei shvius. You shouldn't pay him back from a Shemitah produce or from the money of Shemitah produce. She'ein por in chov midmei shvius, because that's one of the things that you can't do with Shemitah produce. You can't pay off a debt with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if he does it and creates a debt and then wants to repay the debt with the vegetables, that doesn't work. That's not allowed.
So that means any money he gets.
That means that even if he sells the vegetables and gets money and says, okay, here's my money, let me give that to the shopkeeper. Not allowed to do that.
Right.
He's got to use that to buy food and eat that food with Kedusha Sheviis.
Right. It's like taking the money. It's like I just forgot the word. Taking the money to Yerushalayim and buying your food there because you
That's
can't.
right. Like Maaseh Sheni, exactly. This is a similar thing with Maaseh Sheni. That project, the money that he has for Maaseh Sheni has to be used on food. And we saw that before that there was this that similarity with Maaseh Sheni that for example the oil he's allowed to smear it on his body.
Right.
Same with whether it's Maaseh Sheni or Sheviis. And do you remember the difference between them? What's the kula of Sheviis?
I was going to say it's ingested in the skin. I was thinking about.
Yeah, so that's allowed. So there's one area in which the Shemitah oil is more makil than Maaseh Sheni or Truma oil. Do you remember what that was?
No.
Okay, you're allowed to burn it.
All right. Okay. Right. Burn it. You're allowed to burn that. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right. Back to Dalad Yud.
From when on is it forbidden to cut down trees in the 7th year? Beis Shammai says all trees once they bring forth, and Beis Hillel says carob trees once they droop, vines once they produce kernels, olive trees once they blossom, and all of the trees once they bring forth, and all trees may be cut down when their tithing season arrives. How much ought an olive tree produce so that it may not be cut down? A quarter. Reb Shimon says, Ben Gamliel says, all according to the olive time. To white figs in the 7th year applies in the 2nd year, because they ripen over 3 years. Reb Yehuda said the 7th year applies to Persian figs in the year following the 7th year, because they ripen once in 2 years. And they said to him, it was not stated except in regard to white figs. If one buries loaf in the ground in the 7th year, Reb Meir says it may not be less than 2 sa'as, 3 handbreadths in height, and 1 tefach of earth over it. But the comments say it may not be less than 4 calves, 1 tefach in height, and 1 tefach of earth over it, and he must bury it in the ground trodden by people. They want people to walk on it. So
yeah, so it's not going to sprout and look like it was deliberately planted to grow in Shemitah. Okay. Kilayim hay gimel hay.
One may plant a cucumber and a gourd in one hollow, provided this leans to one side and the other leans to the other side. The tips of the leaves on one side to one side, and the tips of the leaves of the other to the other side, because whatever the cucumber pervade, they decreed only on account of appearances. If the field was sown with onions, if he wishes to plant it in rows of gourds, Rabbi Ishmael says he uproots 2 rows, plants 1 row, and leaves the standing crop of onions over the space of 2 rows, and uproots 2 rows and plants 1 row. Rabbi Akiva says he uproots 2 rows and plants 2 rows, and leaves the standing crop of onions over the space of 2 rows, and uproots the 2 rows and plants 2 rows. But the Chachamim say if there are not 12 amat between one row and the other, he may not maintain the seeds between them. Gourds in vegetable as vegetable, but in grain it is given a bet rova. In one field was sown with grain, and he wished to plant it in a row of gourds. It is given 6 tefachs for tending it. If it grew, it must uproot in front of him. Rabbi Yossi says it is given 4 cubits to tend it, and they said to him, "Do you treat this more stringently than vine?" And he said to them, "We find this to be more stringent than vine. Since a single vine is given 6 tefakim to tend it, but a single gourd is given a bet rova." Reb Meir says in the name of Rosh Hashanah, whatever there are 3 gourds in the Beit Sa'ah, he may not bring into the Beit Sa'ah any seed. Reb Yossi HaKotev Afrati said in the name of Reb Yishmael, wherever there are 3 gourds in the Bet Kor, he may not bring it into the Bet Kor any seed. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Tivul Yom. Hey.
Regarding sanctified meat upon which a layer of sediment congealed. If the Tevel Yom touch the sediment, the pieces of meat are permitted. If you touch a piece, the piece and everything that comes up with it are connected to one another. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says both of them are connected to one another, and the same applies to legumes of which a layer congeals on top of the slices of bread. Legumes prepared in a pot. When the legumes are separate, if it is not considered a connection, when they form a mass, it is considered a connection. If there were many masses, they are counted. If oil was floating on top of wine and a tevel yom touched the oil, he has rendered puzzle only the oil. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says both of them are connected to each other. If a barrel sank into a pit containing wine, and a tevel yom touched it, if he touched it from the rim of the barrel and inward, it is considered a connection. If he touches from the rim of the barrel and outward, it is not connected. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says even if the level of wine in the pit above the barrel is equal to the height of the person, and he touched the wine directly above the mouth of the barrel, it is considered a connection. If a barrel of wine developed a hole, whether in its top, its bottom, or its side, and a tevel yom touched it there, all the wine in the barrel is tamei. Rabbi Yehuda says if the hole in the top or the bottom of the barrel and all the wine is tamei, but if the hole is in its side, the wine on this side and on that side is tahor. If one is pouring liquid from one vessel to another and the tevel yom touch the stream, if there is sufficient volume of tahor liquid in the receiving vessel, the tamei liquid is nullified in a mixture of 101.
Okay.
Okay.
Kalim Kaf Zayin Vav.
Okay. Over here. Okay. That's good. Okay. These are measured double: a shoe, knee, breeches, pants, a hat, and a hollow belt. Regarding a patch that is attached to the border, it is unfolded, it is measured. While it is unfolded, it is doubled. If doubled, it is measured while it is doubled. If a piece of cloth that was woven to the size of 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim contracted midrash tuma, and subsequently when finished the whole piece of cloth, and afterward when thread was removed from the original piece of cloth, it becomes tahor from midrash tuma, but it is tamei due to contact with a midrash. If one thread was removed from the original cloth and subsequently when finished the whole piece of cloth, it's tamei due to contact with midrash tuma. Similarly, if a piece of cloth that was woven to the size of 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths contracted corpse tuma, and subsequently when finished the whole piece of cloth, and afterward when thread was removed from the original cloth, it becomes tahor from corpse tuma, but it is tamei due to contact with a mace. If one thread was removed from the original cloth, and subsequently when finished the whole piece of cloth, it's tahor. Because the comment said if a piece measuring 3 finger breadths by 3 is lessened, it is tahor. But if a piece measuring 3 by 3 is lessened, even though it is not susceptible to midrash tuma, it is still susceptible to all other forms of tuma.
Right, so the midrash minimum is 3 tfachim, whereas
Right.
the tumas mace minimum is 3 finger breadths.
Okay.
That's the difference that we have there. Okay. Sheviis. Daled Yud Beis.
Okay. Well, am I missing something? No, just no. Okay. If if he sent the adoration through his slave, or if the defendant said to them, "I adore you," that if you know testimony for him that you come and testify for him, they are exempt unless they hear from the claimant. If he says, "I adore you and I command you, I bind you," they are liable. By heaven and earth they are exempt. By Aleph Dalet, by Yud Hey, by Shaddai, the Sevos, by the gracious and compassionate, by the slow of anger and abundant kindness, or any other substitutes, they're liable. Should one curse himself or his neighbor by any of these, he transgresses a negative commandment. May God smite you, or so may God smite you. This is the curse written in the Torah. May he not smite you, or may he bless you, or may he benefit you. Remeir declares him liable, but the covenant could exempt him. The oath of deposit applies to both men and women, non-relatives and relatives, those qualified, those disqualified, in court and out of court, by his own mouth, and if endured by others, he is not liable unless he denies it in court. These are the words of Reb Meir. But the Chachamim say whether it is by his own mouth or whether endured by others, once he denies it, he is liable. He is liable for a willful transgression of the oath as well as for inadvertent transgression coupled with a willful denial of the deposit. But he is not liable for his inadvertent transgression now. Now, what is he liable for? It's willful transgression, or guilt offering worth at least 2 silver shekels.
That's if a person makes an oath saying that that I don't have your money, and then he admits that that he lied about it. So then, what does he have to do? Having for a kapara, he has to bring an asham and the asham offering for 2 shekels. Plus, of course, he has to repay the keren.
Keren back.
Right. If somebody else comes, this is one of the interesting things where we're probably going to go into this afterwards. But remember that a modev knas is patur. Anyone who admits to a knas doesn't have to pay. So there's a knas that if witnesses come and say, "No, you did take that," then not only does he have to pay back the pikadon, but he has to pay back the chomesh.
Right.
Wait, no. So like if he's a ganav, then he has to pay kefil. And if he's modev, then I think he pays then he has to pay the chomesh, which is he has to pay a chomesh on top of it. Yeah. Okay. We'll see more about that in the Mishnayos.
Okay.
All right.
Have a great Shabbos. Enjoy.
Wait. We're not done. We're not done with Tanis.
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 I didn't take it. Oh, it's on the bottom over here. It's right over here. Reach it. I knew I had it. Okay. Tanis. Sorry. Gimel. On the 3rd day of Mar Cheshvan, we request rain. Rabbi Gamliel says, on its 7th day, 15 days after the festival, so that the last pilgrim straggler of Israel may reach the Euphrates River. If the 17th day of Mar Cheshvan arrived, but the rain did not fall, the distinguished individuals would start fasting a series of 3 fasts. They may eat and drink after dark, and they are permitted to work, bathe, anoint themselves with oil, wear shoes, and have marital relations. It's interesting because that sounds like Lahavdil. It sounds like what they call it, they have the Arabs have. What is it called?
Ramadan.
They fast all day and then they eat at night. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, we also most of our fasts are only day fasts.
Right. But they do that every day, don't they?
Yes.
Right. If Rosh Chodesh Kislev arrived but rain did not fall, Bezdin decrees a series of 3 fasts upon the entire community. They may eat and drink after dark, and they are permitted to work, bathe, anoint themselves with oil, wear shoes, and have marital relations. Okay.
All righty.
Have a great Shabbos.
You too.
Go well, and
Amen. Thank you.
I'll see you, Mr. Shem, on Sunday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.